$40 billion. That's the global magnet market value, growing exponentially as technology demands stronger, more precise magnetic fields. In a Chinese factory, 2,800 tons of rare earth materials arrive monthly to become the magnets powering everything from electric vehicles to MRI machines. It begins with 3 elements and temperatures that could melt copper. Let's see how neodymium, iron, and boron become the world's strongest permanent magnets through 1/400 Gorothers furnaces and magnetic fields 50,000 times stronger than Earth's. 5:30 a.m. Raw neodymium arrives at the facility in sealed containers, each batch tested for 99.5% minimum purity. The rare earth metal, worth $47 per kilogram, is weighed precisely. 68% neodymium, 29% iron, 3% boron. These exact proportions create the NdFeB alloy. Workers wearing protective suits handle the neodymium. Its high reactivity means exposure to moisture would oxidize it within minutes, destroying its magnetic potential. The 3 elements enter an induction furnace reaching 1,400 Celsius, 2,452 degrees. At this temperature, the metals don't just melt, they form a homogeneous liquid alloy where atomic structures begin reorganizing. The molten mixture, glowing white-hot, is then poured onto a spinning copper wheel rotating at 30 meters per second. This rapid quenching cools the alloy from 1.2400 to room temperature in 0.001 seconds, creating ribbon-thin sheets 0.02 millimeters thick. This extreme cooling rate prevents large crystal formation that would weaken magnetic properties. Temperature control during quenching determines everything. The tolerance is brutal, between 113 through 80 degrees and 420 degrees. 1 degree below, the alloy doesn't fully homogenize, reducing magnetic strength by 15%. 1 degree above, unwanted crystal phases form, dropping coercivity by 25%. The spinning wheel speed must maintain exactly 28, 32 nRs. Deviation of just 2 nRs creates uneven ribbon thickness, resulting in inconsistent magnetic domains that cannot align properly during magnetization. The brittle ribbons shatter into flakes, then enter ball mills, steel drums containing ceramic spheres weighing 50 kilograms each. For 8 hours, these spheres pulverize the alloy into powder particles, averaging 3 to 5 micrometers. The smaller the particles, the better the magnetic alignment. After milling, the powder is placed in molds under a 1.2 Tesla magnetic field, 24,000 times stronger than a refrigerator magnet. This field forces each microscopic particle to align with its magnetic axis, pointing in the same direction, creating the foundation for the magnet's eventual strength. Inside the press, 200 tons of pressure compacts the aligned powder into dense blocks. The magnetic field remains active during compression, maintaining particle orientation even as they're squeezed together. This dual action, magnetic alignment plus mechanical compression, creates a green compact with 85% theoretical density. Without this precise combination, the final magnet would lose 40% of its potential magnetic energy product. Sintering transforms the compacted powder into solid magnets. The blocks enter furnaces heated to 1,080 Celsius, 1976 degrees, for 4 hours in an argon atmosphere. Oxygen would oxidize the neodymium, so the chamber maintains 99.99% argon purity. During sintering, particles partially melt and fuse together, eliminating air gaps and creating a dense, uniform structure. The process increases density from 85% to 98% theoretical maximum. Temperature gradients cannot exceed 5 degrees across the furnace. Uneven heating creates internal stresses that crack the magnets during cooling. After sintering, controlled cooling over 12 hours prevents thermal shock that would shatter the brittle neodymium alloy. Post-sintering heat treatment fine-tunes magnetic properties. Blocks are reheated to 900 Geiger, then rapidly cooled to 650 degrees, held for 2 hours, then cooled to 500 degrees, and held for another hour before final cooling to room temperature. This two-stage tempering optimizes the microstructure, aligning grain boundaries and maximizing coercivity. The temperature tolerance during tempering is plus 3 degrees Celsius. Beyond this range, the magnet's ability to resist demagnetization drops significantly, a critical failure for applications in electric motors where opposing magnetic fields constantly try to erase the magnet's orientation. The magnetization chamber generates fields up to 5 Tesla, 100,000 times Earth's magnetic field, and strong enough to levitate a frog. Copper coils carrying 50,000 amperes create this intense field, consuming 2 megawatts of power for the 0.1 second pulse that magnetizes each batch. The magnetic domains inside the sintered blocks, previously randomly oriented, snap into perfect alignment like millions of microscopic compass needles. This moment transforms inert metal into a permanent magnet capable of lifting 1,000 times its own weight. The energy density achieved, 400 kilojoules per cubic meter, makes these the strongest permanent magnets commercially available. Each magnet undergoes Gauss meter testing to verify magnetic field strength within plus-minus 2% of specification. Blocks failing this test, approximately 3% of production, are recycled back to the melting stage. Diamond wire saws cut the blocks into final shapes with 0.05 mm precision. Because neodymium oxidizes rapidly, magnets receive nickel-copper-nickel coating applied through electroplating, creating a 20 micrometer barrier against corrosion. Packaging requires non-magnetic separators. The magnets would otherwise slam together with enough force to shatter. A single 2-inch cube magnet retails for 15 to 30, with the factory producing 50,000 units daily for global distribution. 3 elements: 1,400 dry Gauss furnaces, magnetic fields 100,000 times Earth's strength. Modern neodymium magnets pack more magnetic energy into a cubic centimeter than any permanent magnet in history. Yet 3% still fail final quality testing, despite surviving every previous step, representing $2 million in recycled material monthly at this facility alone. What other high-tech manufacturing process would you like to see broken down to its core elements? Drop your suggestions in the comments and subscribe to Origin of Things for more industrial deep dives.